It's 5:30, you just got home from work, and you have no idea what to make because you did a terrible job of meal planning this week.
Mom, what's for dinner?
Don't worry, I've got your back. So this week on my channel, every day, Monday through Friday, I'm going to be publishing a new video about something budget related. Today, we are talking about what to make when there is, quote, nothing to eat. You know those days when you didn't meal plan, or maybe you just want to avoid a trip to the grocery store and you're trying to save some cash by eating out of your pantry. Today, we are going to talk about some meals that you can whip together with ingredients that you probably have on hand already. Now, since I'm not a wizard, I really can't make something out of nothing, but in today's meals, I'm going to be focusing on ingredients that you likely already have at your house, and I'm also going to be mentioning substitutions that you can make in case you don't have those ingredients on hand. So first up are some breakfast burritos with fried potatoes. I'm also going to be sharing my very favorite recipe for banana bread, which is super flexible. I also tried out a new recipe for cheeseburger soup. This is probably my favorite recipe out of the bunch, and I will definitely be making it over and over again. I also made a really good recipe for meatballs and gravy, and we served that with pasta. You could use any type of ground meat for these meatballs and any type of pasta that you have in your pantry. We had that with some frozen mixed vegetables. Another thing that I made was some instant pot chili. I made that with baked potatoes, and then I also made some cornbread, which I had all of the ingredients on hand for. Chili is great because you have leftovers for days. All of those recipes are in today's video, so cook along with me. Let's save some money by using what's in our pantry and not going out to eat. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna make is some cheeseburger soup, and I actually got the idea for this because I saw some at the grocery store that was like pre-prepped in the deli case. It was at Hy-Vee, and I purchased it and it was not that great.
So you're gonna make it because it wasn't very good.
So I'm gonna make my own. So this is the recipe, cheeseburger soup. It is on the recipecritic.com. So I've got a pound of ground beef here. I always have ground beef in my freezer. It calls for 1 onion. I need to use these shallots up, so I'm gonna use these. I've got some shredded carrots. The recipe also calls for celery, but I don't have any of that, so I'm gonna leave it out. I'm sure you could leave out the carrots too if you don't have those. I've got 3 potatoes. I always have potatoes in my pantry, and you're gonna need about 4 cups of diced potatoes, so that should be enough. I've got dried parsley, dried basil, some chicken broth, butter, milk, all these things I always keep on hand, flour. I've got some sour cream, and then I'm gonna use a mixture of cheeses. So it calls for either Velveeta or cheddar. I've got a little bit of Velveeta left, and then I'm gonna combine it with some Monterey Jack and this cheddar and Gruyere, and I've got some salt and pepper. I'm also gonna make BLTs, which I normally always have the ingredients for. So this is just some bacon that I put on a sheet tray with a cooling rack. I'm gonna bake this at 425 for about 20 minutes. All right, so I've got a Dutch oven here. I've got probably about a couple tablespoons of avocado oil in the bottom of there. I'm gonna go ahead and add my onion and my carrot. So I'm just gonna let these cook for, I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes until they start to get soft. And then I'm gonna add the ground beef. And then while that's working, I'm going to peel my potatoes. I did get this new potato peeler from OXO. I can link it down below. You guys know I love their brand of kitchen items, but it was funny because I was looking for a new one. I actually had a Pampered Chef one that just randomly fell apart one day as I was using it, and this one had pretty good ratings, but then I was like reading the negative ratings, and a bunch of them were like 3 stars, this is super sharp, and I cut myself, which I thought was kind of funny. It's like, oh, you want it to be sharp? I mean, don't cut yourself. my ground beef is mostly cooked, or I guess it is cooked rather. So I'm going to stir in the basil and the oregano. I said oregano, but I meant parsley. I'm going to add my 4 cups of diced potatoes. I did have to use about 5 potatoes to get 4 cups. So just FYI. So I'm going to put in 4 cups of chicken broth. And like I said, I always keep this Knorr chicken bouillon on hand. Okay, so I'm going to stir this up and then bring it to a boil and cover it and just simmer it until the potatoes are tender. So in this little pot here, I just melted the butter and added the flour. So this is going to be like the roux that we're going to add to the soup to thicken it. I'm going to turn this down to low and add the milk. So I added the cheese, Velveeta, cheddar, and some Monterey Jack. So I'm just going to stir this. I'm going to turn the heat up so it bubbles a little bit and just stir it until all the cheese melts. I still need to add some salt and pepper, so I'll taste it and add that. And then the last step is just to turn off the heat and stir in some sour cream. This is done. I would not necessarily say it's like the prettiest soup ever, but it tastes really, really good. I would highly recommend this recipe. Using obviously mostly stuff I had in my house. Didn't have to go to the store to get any of this. So I'm just going to serve this with some crackers and a little bit of cheese on top, and I'm going to make some BLTs. So here's dinner. I made some BLTs and I did crumble up a little bit of bacon on the top of the soup. I thought that would be good. I got these soup and sandwich plates. I ordered them from Sur La Table and they're super cute. I'll link them down below. But anyways, we're going to have for dinner cheeseburger soup and some BLT sandwiches. Bon appetit. All right, so one thing I seem to always have in my house is bananas, and whether they are very ripe like these or almost ripe, or I always have some in my freezer as well, I seem to always have bananas. And so what's one thing that we can always make? Banana bread. Now I did try a different recipe for banana bread it was probably about a month back. America's Test Kitchen, if you remember that, we made banana juice out of microwaving bananas. It was the most bizarre banana bread recipe I've ever made. However, I made it and my family did not care for it. So I'm going back to my tried and true Martha Stewart banana bread recipe. Very simple. This is one I've been using for years. In fact, you can see I printed off this one in 2009. So I've been using it for what? Over 12 years now. Okay, so here's what you'll need. I have some ripe bananas here. I'm gonna go ahead and double this recipe since I have the ingredients to do so. I'll probably share one of the loaves with Adam's parents. I've got some flour, sugar, baking staples. I always have those on hand. Baking soda, salt, vanilla, and I have some butter here. I always keep butter in my freezer as well. Now the recipe calls for sour cream, but I have used both sour cream and yogurt in this particular recipe and it works great. I have this yogurt that I got from Aldi. It's just vanilla yogurt. You could use plain yogurt. You could use, I've even used like flavored yogurt in here before if it's all I had, and it works fine. Just for one loaf of it, you only need half a cup. So I'm going to use 1 cup of this. Since this does have a little bit of sugar in it, I think I'll maybe cut back on the actual sugar in the recipe just a little bit, but let me get out my bowl and my mixer. Okay, so for this recipe, it says we need, what's it say? 1 cup for 1 loaf, but I'm doubling it. So 2 cups of mashed banana. I think I'm going to put maybe 4 bananas in here and we'll see how that works. I am probably gonna have extra bananas, so what I'll do is I'll slice those up and put them in the freezer, and then we just use them in smoothies. And you can either mash your bananas with a fork, but I think it's just as easy to mash them with a potato masher, so that's what I'm gonna do. So that's about 2 cups. Took 5 bananas for that. Okay, so in my bowl here, I'm using my stand mixer. I've got my 2 sticks of butter, and I would have needed 2 cups of sugar, but I just added 1 3/4 cups since the yogurt is sweetened. Then I'm just gonna cream this until it's fluffy. I also forgot that you need eggs for this recipe. I had them out on the counter, but I forgot to show that. So 4 eggs total. And then vanilla, we need 1 teaspoon. So we're gonna add 2 teaspoons to here. Okay, and then also I added my yogurt, so I'm just gonna mix that in. Okay, so I added my bananas to here. I added 3 cups of flour, some baking powder or soda, baking soda, and some salt, and I'm just gonna mix this up slowly. So I've got 2 loaf pans here. I'm gonna use this Baker's Joy to grease my pans with. And then I also like to put a parchment paper sling in the bottom of each one because that helps be able to pull the loaf of banana bread out when it's done. And then I'm gonna try carefully to put half of the batter in each one as evenly as I can. So hopefully that's as even as I could get it. So I'm gonna pop these into the oven. I have the oven set at 350 degrees and they'll bake for about an hour. All right, so here is our banana bread out of the oven. I'm just gonna let it cool a little bit more before I wrap it up. I would just encourage you to take it out of the oven when it still feels like it's not quite done in the middle, because otherwise the edges will get too brown. But this turned out perfect, so I'm gonna wrap one up and give to Adam's parents, and we'll use the other one for breakfast and snacks throughout the week. What to make when you have nothing? Okay, chili and baked potatoes. So I always seem to have baked potatoes in my pantry, even if they're a little bit questionable in terms of freshness. It seems like I always have some. So I have washed these up, scrubbed them. I just put them on a baking sheet, and I'm gonna drizzle them with olive oil and a little bit of salt, and then I'm gonna poke holes in them with a fork. Make sure you do that, otherwise, yes, they will explode. And then I'm gonna stick these in a 425-degree oven and cook them for about an hour. And then I've got 2 pounds of ground beef here that I've thawed. I'm gonna make some chili in the Instant Pot. I always have ground beef in my freezer. If you don't have ground beef, you can make vegetarian chili. You can also use ground turkey, ground chicken. You could use stew meat, whatever you have will work. The reason why I like making chili when I don't have anything planned to, make, and I haven't gotten groceries in a while, is because I normally have all of the ingredients on hand. So I always keep tomatoes and beans in my pantry. In fact, I went to Hy-Vee last week, and even though they're a brand name grocery store, like a chain, you can still get some good deals on stuff if you shop their coupons and their flyers. So like, for example, I stocked up on beans. They had these Mrs. Grimes beans on sale, 3 for $1, and you could get 6 of them. So I got 6 cans of beans for like I got 6 cans of beans for like 33 cents each, which I thought was awesome. So I'm gonna add 1 can of drained dark red kidney beans, and then 1 of these larger cans of, these are beans in chili sauce. Normally they're pinto beans. And you can add any combination of beans and tomatoes that you like. I'm gonna add 1 can of petite diced tomatoes, and then I've got a large can of tomato sauce. You could also use tomato juice, and then I'll probably add a couple cups of water. I'll stir this up and kind of just judge and see if I feel like it needs any more beans, but I think we'll be good. And just to let you guys know, while I was cooking the beef itself, while I was sauteing it here in the Instant Pot, I just added some spices. I added some of this minced onion in lieu of regular chopped onion because that's what my kids like. And then I also seasoned it with some of this brisket rub, which this is just like spices that's salt-free. I put some salt and pepper in there and added some paprika as well, and then I've got my chili powder out here. Okay, so I seasoned my chili with chili powder, some paprika, some cumin, salt, pepper. I put 1 teaspoon of sugar in there just to kind of counteract the acidity of the tomatoes. And then I added 1 extra can of tomato sauce just because I felt like it needed it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on this and pressure cook on the chili / bean setting. Okay, so another thing that I like to make with chili is cornbread. In fact, Adam always requests it, and I always have the ingredients to make it, but I just don't sometimes. So today I thought I would. So I'm using Mandy from Mandy in the Making here on YouTube, her cornbread recipe, because last time I asked you guys which one I should use, that's what you said. So in here I've got some self-rising cornmeal, and never fear, if you don't have self-rising cornmeal like me, you can make your own. Just Google a recipe for it. So I've got that in here with some shortening and some eggs, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut this together with a pastry cutter. And then the recipe calls for buttermilk. I don't have any buttermilk, but we're improvising. So I have 2 cups of whole milk mixed with a couple tablespoons of vinegar, and I've also got my cast iron skillet preheating in the oven. All right, so here's my cast iron. Really hot. Ooh, don't you? Okay, and I'm gonna bake this for 25 to 35 minutes at 425, it says. Okay, so here is the completed chili. I did not get a shot of any of our plates or bowls or whatever because we already ate, but obviously the great thing about making chili too is that you always have plenty left over and it freezes great. So this turned out good. I'll save some of it in the refrigerator and we'll freeze the rest of it. And then here is the cornbread. I will say I think this turned out pretty good. I may have baked it for too long. The recipe said to bake it for 25 to 35 minutes. I baked it for 25, but it still turned out really good. It's good with some butter on top, and then there are our baked potatoes. So that's what we had for dinner tonight. Okay, so one of the meals that I always have ingredients for is breakfast burritos. And you can make these for any meal, you don't have to make them for breakfast, but I always have eggs, some kind of cheese, some type of breakfast meat. It doesn't necessarily have to be bacon. You could use sausage or ham, or you could leave the meat out altogether. I've also got some leftover diced potatoes that I baked the other night, so I'm gonna fry those up, and then I always have flour tortillas. I have my potatoes in this skillet right here. I put a little bit of olive oil and butter. I like to combine the olive oil with the butter because it helps the butter not burn. And then I just season the potatoes with a little bit of salt and pepper. These are obviously already cooked. That's why I kind of always like to make extra baked potatoes when I make them for dinner, because then you can dice them up once they're cold and make fried potatoes out of them. And then in this skillet I've got my bacon. So I just took probably, I don't know, 8 slices of bacon and chopped it up into small pieces, and I'm just gonna fry these until they are crispy, and then while that is working I'll work on the eggs. Okay, so I'm gonna take the bacon out and just put it on a plate that I have lined with a paper towel. Okay, so I've got a couple flour tortillas here, and I'm just gonna put some cheese down on the bottom. I'm going to basically seal these up and then heat them up in a pan, and that will not only help cook the tortilla, but it also helps like seal the burrito. So I would recommend doing that. You just do it in a dry skillet. I'm gonna put some eggs on here and some of the bacon. And if you have like veggies to use up in your crisper drawer, you can put peppers, mushrooms, whatever you like. And then I'm just gonna fold this up. So yeah, I just have a nonstick skillet here. There's no oil or anything in it, and I have it over medium heat. If you put the burritos in there seam side down, Then just wait till they get a little golden on the bottom. You can flip them over and you can, they'll stay closed that way. So it's kind of a neat trick. All right, so here we go. We've got 2 breakfast burritos with some taco sauce or salsa on the side and fried potatoes. So definitely recommend this if you are looking to use up ingredients in your fridge and or pantry. Like I said, it's super flexible. Any cheese, any meat, any veggies you have on hand, you just need some eggs and some tortillas. Okay, so when I was looking for some recipe ideas to show you guys, you know, what to make when you don't have anything planned or don't have anything, you know, you feel like you don't have anything to make, I found this meatballs and gravy recipe on Taste of Home. So that's what I'm gonna make tonight. I've made something similar to this before, but not exactly this recipe, but I'm sure it'll be good. So I've got 1 pound of ground beef that I thawed from the freezer. I always have ground beef in the freezer. I've got some milk. I'll need some other ingredients for the meatballs too. I'll get those in a second. I'm gonna serve these with pasta. The reason why I chose this particular meal is, again, you can substitute the ground beef for any type of ground meat, you know, turkey, chicken, pork, whatever you have on hand. And then obviously whatever pasta you have in your pantry will work with this. I'm gonna use these egg noodles. I actually got these on Thrive a long time ago and I just haven't used them yet. They're actually only half a pound in each little box here. So I'm gonna make 2 of those because my kids love buttered egg noodles. They will eat a lot of those. And then, you know, just serve a veggie on the side or a salad. If you have canned veggies, frozen veggies, I've got this bag of mixed vegetables that I actually got this free from Hy-Vee in a deal that I got from them, but that is what I'm gonna make for dinner tonight. Okay, so I'm gonna mix up the meatball mixture in this bowl right here. I've got 1 egg in here. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, which I've never added that to meatballs before, but hey. Half a cup of milk. I'm adding a little less than that because I am using a little less ground beef than the recipe calls for. The recipe calls for 1.5 pounds of ground beef, but I just thought a 1 pound roll, so that'll be fine. That's usually makes more than enough meatballs for the 4 of us. And then instead of like chopped onion, like fresh onion, I'm just gonna use some minced onion. I don't really prefer like big chunks of chopped up onion in my meatballs like at all ever. So I'm gonna use that instead. And then I'm gonna add some pepper, some salt. It calls for nutmeg, allspice, and ginger. I'm a little scared. Maybe I'll add just a tiny pinch of each. Okay, so I've got a big pot of water here. I'm gonna go ahead and get this on high to boil. I did purchase, so you guys know I worked with Mason a lot on my channel, and I've shown their skillets, their like stainless skillets, their non-stick skillets, their knives, etc. Over Christmas, I did purchase myself a set of their stainless steel pans, and they're fantastic. I highly recommend them. Like I said, this particular video is not sponsored, but I just love their products. So I did get, I think it was like on a deal over the Christmas holiday, but it came with this big pasta pot, which I've really been liking. I didn't really have a pot this particular size. I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna make these in a non-stick skillet. So here's the meat mixture. This is kind of interesting because it doesn't have any breadcrumbs or anything in it, but I did go ahead and add some nutmeg, allspice, and nutmeg, allspice, and ginger, just a little bit because I don't want it to be too strong. I'm using just like a little cookie scoop or a meatball scooper to make my meatballs because the meat mixture, since it doesn't have any breadcrumbs in it, it's kind of fragile. And then I'm just gonna brown these gently. The recipe said to use 4 tablespoons of butter. I just put 1 tablespoon in the pan along with a little bit of olive oil because I thought that was a little bit excessive. So I'm just gonna brown these on all sides, remove them to a paper towel lined plate, and then once they're all cooked, we'll make the gravy. Okay, so I've browned all my meatballs and I've wiped out my skillet. I added a little bit more butter and some flour. I'm gonna cook this together and then add some beef broth and some half and half. Okay, so I'm gonna add 1 cup of beef broth. And then the recipe says you can either use half and half or milk, which is nice because you could use whatever you have on hand. I'm gonna use half and half. And then this will probably thicken pretty quickly. I'm gonna taste it, maybe add some minced parsley and put the meatballs back in. Okay, so these have been simmering, I would say, for about, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. It smells delicious. I did taste the sauce and I felt like it needed a little extra something, so I added maybe a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. So I'd recommend that if you're gonna make this recipe, but I'm just gonna stick the lid on these. And the veggies are cooking right now. I cooked my pasta. This pasta cooks super quick, like in 5 minutes or something like that. So I'm gonna drain this, butter it, get the veggies ready, and we can eat. All right, so here is our completed meal. Turned out really good. I highly recommend this. I will definitely be making this recipe again. And like I said, super versatile for whatever you have on hand. Kind of a Swedish meatball vibe going on here. I just sprinkled some dried parsley on the top, and we got our veggies on the side. Murphy is hungry as well. You want to eat? Yum. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me on today's video. I really appreciate you being here. I will see you back tomorrow for another one. Have a good Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.